Gravity Forge. This is by Relay, and it has no specific release date, and it is developer's first game, which is a third-person horde shooter. Let me go ahead and pull up the trailer here. I thought this game looked pretty cool, and I thought it'd be fun to bring to the table. Um, yeah, so here it is, and right off the bat here, this bringing in swords into the game here. Oh, if it'll play. Oh, it froze. There we go. Bringing in a sword and just slices this mech, and then does these John Wick flips, slow motion shooting. It's super exciting to me. I think it looks very fun. Yeah, it's just a horde shooter, but the one thing with the horde shooting, or what makes this different, is the fact that you can manipulate gravity and slow down time, it looks like, and I think that's such a cool element. And so if you're just listening, there's just tons of little mechs, and you play as this, ooh, what is her name? I'm blanking. You play as Elsa, who is assassin, and yeah, it's kind of has some kung fu situations, and you saw her running on the wall. You can play, it's multiplayer. What are your thoughts, Dave?
What's the name of that gung fu game that we talked about last time? Spine. It
Yes.
reminded me a lot like Spine.
See, it did me as well. However, like, I felt like this one looks more fun because you remember when we were very excited about Spine. When the first trailer we watched about it, we were like, wow, this is going to be very fun, gung fu, John Wick style. And then we saw like more gameplay, and it kind of felt frozen. Like some of the movements, the animations were like kind of frozen. You know what I mean? Like kind of not gimmicky. What's the word? Kind of janky.
Stiff.
Yeah, stiff. That's what it was.
It felt stiff.
Whereas this one, okay, I don't think this is perfect. This game's not perfect by any means, and it's a smaller developer, obviously. But I felt like the movement like was into the gameplay more than Spine was. Spine felt more animation based, whereas this seems like the moves are gonna matter, the way you jump over things and slow down time, run on walls, like attack the ground and have your exploding sword. I don't know. It just looks a little bit more visually fun to me than Spine did.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was like what I was kind of getting at. Like Spine, when we talked about Spine, we talked about it being like kind of lackluster and just being kind of like a game that's going to get real boring because once you enter these animations, you're kind of out. Like Adam said, this feels a lot like a game that you're going to be controlling what would be an animation in Spine. So I know that like I already have a better idea of like the level of enjoyment I would get from playing a title like this, being more involved in it. I do have some questions though, and hopefully you could give me some answers because I had a hard time finding this. Is this a story-based thing, or is this going to be just like a load-in level horde shooter?
So it's open world. I don't know if it has specific like a streamlined linear story. Like, however, what it reminded me of in terms of that aspect, I think it's gonna play a lot like Left 4 Dead and Dead Rising, like that kind of gameplay where it's just a bunch of zombies. Well, these are mechs, but bunch of mechs and things that come at you. But I think it's gonna have like a loose story with a couple cutscenes, or just objectives that you have to go complete. I don't know if it's gonna be anything crazy in terms of like story, and I don't know because reading into the story a little bit, essentially what it all said is it takes place in Gaston City, which is a technogenic dystopia combining Dieselpunk and Biopunk elements together, and you play as parkour expert assassin that can manipulate gravity, who is Elsa, and you can play with your squad mates who are treasure hunters, and they say a heist goes wrong, and then biotech's living magnet is coming at you. So
Right.
yeah.
So I was like kind of not sure if this is gonna have like a story base to it. And then
Yeah.
also this multiplayer situation, like this is multiplayer, obviously.
Yeah, co-op, yep.
So how does this like gravity control? Because if you guys were just listening, or when we took a look at the trailer, lots of slow-mo. There was lots of slow-mo footage. Like, so how does this like slow motion gravity control work within the realms of like having another player in the world with you.
That's what I was trying to figure out too. I think it's gonna be really hard to. I was curious on how they make it work. Does everybody slow down when you do that, or is it a specific area? It's very confusing. But I think like technology nowadays has the capability to like zone in the slow motion, if that makes sense. Or is the slow motion just animation for the cutscene to make it more cinematic? I'm curious to know how that is. However, the way the developers describe it, it's a game that infuses warframes, fast movements, Doom Guy's katana combat, Max Payne's cinematic style with the sliding, the slow motion, and then it also offers puzzles of Half Life and multi-dimensional parkour. So I think they are going to have a slow motion. I'm just curious on how well it's going to play out with co-op.
Yeah, that was 100% my question. If you guys let us know in the comments if you got any ideas here, but like I feel like in this situation everybody that loads in has to go slow-mo when you go slow-mo, right?
I don't know.
Because you'd be in a different, like, I don't want to get too intellectual here, but you'd be in a different plane, a time, like a plane of existence within the timeline.
Right. Like
You
you're
know what I
playing.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
Or
if you're playing and you slow down time and it doesn't affect me slowing down time, it's all controlled in one digital world that's been programmed. Don't you think that would screw things up?
I'm kind of thinking of like recent games. So Marvel Rivals has a character. I don't remember which character it is, but you have like a time bubble where you can like slow down time, like you slow down people in that bubble, but the game around it's still going fast, if that makes sense.
Okay, so then the anti-gravity slow motion isn't really like a time slow motion. It's more of like like a radial, like it affects like an area around you. Okay.
So I'm thinking that's how it's gonna work. It's like it seems like it's slow motion in time, but it's the characters within that radius, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think that's what's gonna happen. Not so much the world slows down. I think it's an element of specific bubbles are slowing down, if that makes sense.
That makes way more sense
Yeah.
because I was looking at this and I was like, this is clearly Max Payne slow down, like slow motion Max Payne animations. And I was like, how is this going to work as a multiplayer?
Yeah, and another one kind of confused me a little bit. So one of the abilities that you'll have is switch gravity, and so that makes the ceiling the floor, and the floor the ceiling, and the walls move and whatnot. Um, does that flip all the enemies? I was trying to pick this out in the trailer. It looks like it's if you switch from the wall or the ceiling to the floor, the enemies are still on like the normal floor, and so you can shoot down at them.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a really cool element. One other ability that I didn't get to see too much in the trailer is you'll have a shrink ability to get behind enemies and like ambush them. So I was hoping to see a little bit more on that. Uh,
Like an
change.
Ant-Man situation.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Create gravity wells. So I in the trailer you saw where she like threw this purple ball and like all the enemies were floating in the air as she was shooting them. You can change mass. I think that might be the shrink, but I'm curious to see how these all play out in a co-op aspect, and I'm really excited for it. And then the the combat is again supposed to be very fast paced, combines melee and ranged attacks. Um, One thing that I thought was cool with the combat is the enemies are AI. Like the AI and the enemies learn your tactics of how you play, and they'll counteract on elements that you like. If you're doing the same thing over and over, they'll pick up on that and fight you based off the way you've been playing.
Yeah, the adaptive AI.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah, I was gonna
cool.
touch on that. I kind of like when games do that
Yeah, it makes it
because
less predictable.
yeah, and it makes it more challenging too because it's like I don't know, like I almost don't trust myself when I play games, right? Like you don't want to cheese, but if you find one, you kind of like if you get to a spot and you're like I can't beat this and you're like cheese. You just do the cheese and like you can't help yourself from doing the cheese. Like I don't know if you guys are the same way, but I don't know. Like especially like Dark Souls and stuff like that. Like if it's just like cheese, just do the cheese. After 400 deaths, I'm just doing the cheese and the adaptive AI kind of like cuts, yeah, just cuts the cheese out.
Puts it in the shredder and says, "Nope, sorry." But yeah, so I think that's really cool. There's gonna be various different types of enemies. So they'll have the basic enemies, but there will be elite enemies too. Which there's a couple in there that look like they were samurais that come at you. I'm guessing again based off the objectives that you're supposed to complete. Um, with the co-op, there's friendly fire, so you gotta watch out if you throw these gravity wells or you shoot at them. Like that can injure your teammates and cause them to die. And I'm curious to know how many friends it is that you can bring in. On the trailer, it looked like there's at least two. There's three of the Elsas running. Did I say Elsa? That's not her name. Oh, it is. Okay, Elsa. I was thinking of Let It Go first, or
Yeah,
Frozen for a second. I was like,
Frozen.
that's not right, but it is Elsa. And so I'm curious. I think at least two other friends can join in with you. I'm curious to know if there's more.
Okay, two things. I hope you can turn off friendly fire because I absolutely hate that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I hate friendly fire. And like, don't you kind of wish a little bit that like they made some other characters?
Yeah, that's kind of weird,
I mean,
especially
kind of load
as
in as three Elsas.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
I just kind of find that weird. I just wonder if like ability wise of trying to mesh various abilities, like if other characters had different abilities, trying to manipulate that. I guess. I mean, other games do it, but I don't know.
I don't think you got to give them different abilities, guys. If you guys see this video, like, just make two different sprites. Just make two different characters. They don't need to be any different. Make it Elsa and Kara and Bella, and just make them like different hair colors and wearing different outfits. Like it doesn't have to be crazy. It's still better than dropping the three same sprites in.
Right. I mean, it could be the same just for right now in the trailer, and they just haven't had time to piece together other character models. But yeah, if you can have different character models, that'd be cool because it'd make it less robotic, I guess. But I mean, it is a lot of robots.
If possible. I mean, if possible. If you guys see this, if possible, maybe just like two other sprites, just so we're not dropping in as the same character, would be kind of interesting.
Overall, I think the game is really cool looking. Again, we talked about Spine a couple times and just the level of staleness that the animations brought. I think this one is much more intriguing to me now than the first one, or instead of Spine. Um, and I'm excited for this one. And there is a playtest that you can sign up for that, or yeah, and try to get invited to. So if you're interested in this game, go ahead and try to sign up for the playtest and give us some feedback on it.
Go ahead and sign up for the playtest. I am honestly kind of excited for this one. I was excited for Spine, and then I was not excited for Spine. So I'm excited to get a Gung Fu game that's not just a bunch of timed quick event animations. It's gonna be great.
And that's not to say I'm still gonna give Spine a chance. So Spine people, if you're watching this, I don't think you will be because we're not actually talking about your game this go around. But I'm still gonna give that a shot. I'm gonna give this game a shot. But let us know in the comments if you know anything else about the game. Are you excited about it? We'd love to hear it.